So who do y'all think is actually in charge up there in Washington, D.C.? It's pretty clear that, Biden has no clue what's going on. We've heard all the jokes, all the dementia and all that, but just watching him speak, it's getting worse. Of course, he's falling up the stairs, and he does this little press conference, which was like a television production. Watching him go down his list of pre-screened reporters, and even stumbling through all that when it's all just a setup. It's like reading off a script. There's some photos out there of his notes, and there's pictures of each of the reporters and their name and all that. And then there's like a paragraph next to it or under it. So obviously, it's, that paragraph is the answer that Biden is supposed to give to the question that specific reporter is going to ask. It's unbelievable. No hard-hitting questions, and just comparing that to the way that the press treated Trump. I mean, they were yelling and screaming at him every day, and he still talked to him. He picked the reporters that he knew were going to, not just ask tough questions, but be disrespectful and lie and try to trap him. He would still call on them and answer their questions. There's no arguing that Trump was the most transparent president, maybe to a fault, that we've seen. But this Biden situation, it's really unbelievable. So you got to ask yourself, who is really in control up there? I don't think it's Kamala Harris. I don't think she has the capacity, the mental capacity or the wherewithal to be the one running the show. I think she's just a figurehead. They needed a woman, a black woman, to check off a box in their identity politics toolkit. That's the only reason she's there. So who's pulling the strings? Is it Obama? I know Obama did a interview not too long ago talking about an ideal situation would be for somebody else to be in office, obviously because he can't. He's already been president twice. And Obama just having a direct line to the White House where he would, quote unquote, consult with the sitting president. So I think there's probably a lot of that going on. The Susan Rices, the John Brennans. Interesting tidbit about John Brennan. This guy who was, I don't know if he's NSA director or one of the intelligence agencies. He was a member of the American Communist Party back in the 70s. Maybe it was the 80s. So we have not even a closeted communist, out in the open communist supporter, was in charge of the intelligence agencies under Obama. And he's still out there in the media giving his spin on everything and how bad Trump was and how bad the white supremacy problem is, and all the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers are the biggest threat to the country, and so on and so forth. So who is in charge? I don't think, I've been down all the rabbit holes. I've been down the Illuminati rabbit hole. I think it's just the bureaucracy. The Washington bureaucracy with probably some leaders like Obama and the Clintons. I'm sure there's some international influence, the Soroses, Netanyahu and Klaus Schwab of the Davos group. I think that's pretty much who's running the show here. They put Biden up there, and I can't figure out why they picked Biden. Maybe because he's so controllable, because he has no thoughts of his own. He has no plan. He's not capable. He's just not. He's deteriorated so bad that he can't develop a plan. He even said in his press conference that he's incapable of planning 3 or 4 years out. When he was asked if he would run for president again, his answer was, Well, I'm not really capable of planning anything 3 or 4 years out. This is the guy supposedly running the dang country. So it's really scary to think exactly what's happening in Washington. Our supposed for the people and by the people form of government is not that at all. There's a very superficial appearance of democracy in the United States. So I'd be interested for somebody to comment below who you think is really in charge. Is there one puppet master? You know what I mean? Is there a boogeyman? Is it Obama? Is it a group? I tend to think it's a group. I'm not a big subscriber to the whole Illuminati theory. I think it's just out in the plain and open. I don't think there's a hidden cabal. I think there's some very powerful, wealthy, business titans internationally that kind of make the decisions that affect the world for the most part. The Bilderberg meeting and all that. I think they're just out in the open with it now. It's interesting. Years ago, maybe 10 or maybe even a little less, you used to be able to go on YouTube and you could get all kinds of videos. You could get Illuminati video, you could get the lizard people, all the 9/11 videos, flat earth, you name it, fringe topics, you could get it and they would be suggested videos. Now you can't find that stuff anywhere. And it's like, why do they censor all that stuff? Like, if it's so stupid, if it's all gobbledygook, let it be out there and criticize it and say, no, all that is wrong and here's why. But they just hide it and they create, they just create these echo chambers of people with really bad ideas that they bounce off each other, and there's no one there to correct them or criticize them because they're in their own little world. So these extreme or fringe ideas just grow. And they become a little bit more radical. So I watched an interesting interview on Laura Ingraham the other day. She had Dr. Atlas on, and Dr. Atlas is who Trump brought in to basically counter what Fauci was doing, to give more of a more reasonable approach to the COVID situation and take into consideration people's liberties and not trounce all over them. And of course, Dr. Atlas was silenced in the media for the most part. I mean, you can catch him on Fox every once in a while. But basically, he and an immunologist from Harvard or Yale were on there, and they were talking about the preventative measures that could really make an impact on COVID. And it's like, making sure you're not vitamin D deficient, combining vitamin D with zinc. They talked about, the medications that became politicized, and I probably can't even say it on YouTube, but it starts with an H and ends with Loroquine. These are cheap generic medications that they were having a lot of success with this COVID-19 virus, and they were basically stating that it's the pharmaceutical companies are the ones profiting from all this, and they're going after they're promoting these expensive drugs and vaccines that work in some cases not as well as the cheaper generic stuff. So the information is out there for people. They just got to go look into it, and hopefully some of these local, your private doctor and stuff is bright enough and not being political with the way he's treating you, and he'll treat you with an affordable, effective medication should you need it. So we got the borders wide open. Southern border. Ted Cruz was down there yesterday trying to take some videos of the kids in cages, quote unquote, and some political operative hack, one of Biden's staffers, is down there trying to get in his way, a sitting senator, and this girl who's probably an intern is berating Ted Cruz because he's trying to document what's going on there so he can come up they can come up with some sort of legislation to fix this. And you got a political hack telling a sitting senator what he can and cannot do down at the border. It's unbelievable. I heard a number, and I don't know if it's 6,000 a week or 6,000 a day of illegals that are getting into the country. Or maybe they're not considered illegal if they go through these reception centers, but they basically say, okay, here's a court date, make sure you come back, and they document nothing. So that's a real bad, that could be the downfall of this Biden administration, if there's anybody that'll hold them accountable. And I appreciate Ted Cruz and guys like that going down there, but we really need to see them in the media. We need to see them in Congress, introducing legislation to combat this, or holding Biden and his administration holding their feet to the fire on this, because this can't continue. 6,000 people a day, maybe it was a week, maybe it was 6,000 a week, but either way, 6,000 a week, that's 24,000 a month. After 4 years, if that continues, that's a huge voting block for the Democrats. That's that's like a couple districts worth of people that they just let in, and there's no ID requirements, or there will be none by that point to vote. So they're basically bringing in another voting block for them, that the American people are going to be saddled with taking care of these people. They're going to be on welfare. They're going to get free medical and free education and free this, free that. I was thinking the other day, instead of, since it's so difficult for poverty-stricken people to get an identification, so they say, to get identification so they can vote with it, instead of taking away the ID requirement for voting, why don't we have a huge effort and put all this money that we're going to put into mail-in voting and all this money we're going to put on all these other stupid programs? Why don't we have a massive effort and fund it by the federal government to get everybody a photo ID? Doesn't that make more sense? To secure the election or secure the votes? Why don't we focus on getting everyone an identification instead of taking away the requirement of needing one to vote? But that's just common sense, and that doesn't work in Washington. So hopefully we can shore up the border here. We're really going to need some Republicans and libertarians to step up to the plate here and tell these liberals running the show right now that this can't continue. This is going to ruin our country, among a gazillion other things they're doing. So let me know in the comments who you think's actually in charge in Washington right now.